Hi guys, welcome to my video for week 4. This week we read 4 chapters. So the first chapter I'm going to talk about is chapter 6 in the Bauman book. It was overall an overview of technical elements. My first takeaway from the chapter was the section about sound, and it was reassuring to me that Bauman talked about making sure that sound is the one thing that we should splurge on if, we only can splurge on one thing. So that made me feel good just because that's something that I have invested in this year, and really the first thing I've really invested in a big dollar amount. So I'm hoping that it'll pay off. So that was reassuring for me. The other takeaway from that chapter was about the scenic items that are always useful, like the muslin flats, I don't know how to pronounce that, freestanding doors, stair units, platforms, and acting blocks. All of these things seem very useful, and I wish I had some, or any of them would be nice. I have nothing, so I definitely think that it's something that I would like to get, something I might need to build myself. I just need time and resources to do that. My third takeaway from that chapter was from the props section, and I really like the example that Bauman gave about the 4th graders that perform Alice in Wonderland through storytelling without the use of costumes and props and sets. It was just reassuring again to me that I don't need to have all these elaborate props, sets, and costumes in order to pull off a good performance. So that is also reassuring to me. Chapter 8 in the Catron book was about music and sounds. Everything that we read this week was news to me, so it was all very educational, informational. I love getting this information. I just wish I had some hands-on experience to go with it. So again, that's something that I feel like I will be self-teaching myself, So anyway, my first takeaway from that chapter was on from the use vocal qualities to control focus. I found it interesting that directors use unique voices to draw attention to actors, and that having actors who all sound the same will not let the audience identify the speaker easily. This was an aha moment for me, and I really want to try to remember that in the future when casting, to make sure that my voices are very unique and diverse from each other. My second takeaway from the chapter was about from the section on difficulties with sound effects. I think it's really important that we rehearse with sound before the process, even though it could take a lot of time. I think it's definitely worth it. That's something that I need to do this year, since I will hopefully have a sound system working. I need to rehearse with it as soon as possible. My third takeaway from that chapter was on the types of music that a show has. Learning all the terms, the definitions of the type of music is very interesting to me. I didn't know all those names. I have not used any sound or music in my productions yet, so it'll be interesting for me to incorporate those as I go forward. Chapter 9 was about spectacle. I really got a lot out of this chapter too. My first big takeaway was the section that describes all the things that spectacle can show the audience. There was a list of items, and I just thought it was really interesting because, I might not have thought of all the ways that spectacle is important in a show. And so that was just like a reminder for me how important that is. So that was interesting. My second takeaway was about style, learning about the different types of style. I think I kind of already knew realism and expressionism, modified realism. I didn't know there was a style called theatricalism, so I think that's really interesting. That's the one I would like to learn more about and see how to implement it successfully. My last takeaway from this chapter was in the last 2 paragraphs, where Catron states that directors should start by searching for the playwright's mental image of the play. And when you are confident that you understand the playwright's reasons for incorporating specific visual aspects of production, you'll be ready to move on to your conception of the production spectacle. So I thought that was really good advice, and that I need to take that into consideration as well moving forward. Chapter 16 is about the ground plan. I made a little comment or a side note in my post that the last theater class I took we had to create a ground plan for Hamlet. If you've done that class, you know what I'm talking about. And I didn't even know what a ground plan was. And so was like, oh, it would have been nice to know that before. So this was very helpful. I wish I would have known all of this before when I was taking that class. Anyway, now I know. And my first takeaway is that from the beginning, the author says the ground plan should have all the necessary components, but not so much that it takes away the need for the audience to use their imaginations. I really liked this because I had never really thought about this before. I thought that I needed to put everything on stage that I possibly could. And I was kind of stressed out when there were things I couldn't put on the stage, being with a very minimal budget and resources. And so for me, that was an aha moment because I thought, oh, I don't have to include everything. I can leave something to the audience's imagination. So, and that we should leave things to the imagination. So that was a really good takeaway for me. My second takeaway from this section was when he lists all the specific furniture considerations and how to use specific pieces. That was very helpful to me. It reminded me of last year when I did an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland called The Mad Tea Party by Brian Taylor's that I got from Pioneer Drama. And I just used a very long rectangle table, and I just had it in center stage, and all my characters sat around it. There were 12 total. And I was never happy with it. I didn't like it. It seemed very awkward and unnatural, but I didn't know what else to do. So reading this chapter was very helpful, and I think going forward, I'll understand that I can be a lot more creative and liberal with the ways that I place certain pieces. My third takeaway from this chapter was from the section on special problems and solutions. I liked how Catron explained how to use very specific pieces for specific reasons. So my example was bookcases and fireplaces and where to place those. And then also when he talked about placing furniture downstage and props, so that characters had motivation to move. I really like that as well, just because those things kind of never occurred to me as a new director. So overall this week, I learned so much new information, and I'm glad. So thank you guys. That's my video. Have a good week.